You mind giving out the copies again? Yeah. Whoever didn't get the copies from yesterday. Oh, yeah. Chazak. Thank you, thank you. Okay. You have a copy from yesterday, Reb Yaakov? What we learned yesterday? Okay, if anybody still needs. Okay. A heated conversation this morning, huh? Probably about the system. Huh?
About whether to learn on nipple or not.
Ah. No, what's the conclusion?
No, I don't think I have one yet.
Certainly, the day of Nittel you could learn, das ist kein Scheilenicht. It's from Shkia till Chatzos, that's the meaning. From sunset till Chatzos, till midnight.
Is that according to the English calendar or the Jewish calendar?
The English calendar, of course.
Is that also true of the Greek Orthodox? What's that called?
Yeah, the Greek Orthodox had a different.
So, but the same would be the same.
That's the chiddush here. That the idea of Nittel is based on the secular calendar, because the reason for the minhag, it's brought in Svarim, is that since this is the holiday that represents the foundation and genesis of Christianity, especially that he was a Jew, and a Jew who was a scholar, who was a student of Tanoim, whether Yeshua ben Prachia or others. In other words, he was a Jew who learned Torah. So Jews learning Torah at that time, according to this explanation, would give chiyus, would give vitality and energy to this movement, to this religion, which has caused so much bloodshed. So the whole idea is during the time that they celebrated it. It's not about a date in the Hebrew calendar, right? It's about the date that they're actually celebrating it, and those who follow that shita today. That's the idea. That's why you follow the secular date exclusively. It's not like when you're celebrating a Yom Tif, and the point is, when is it in the Jewish calendar? Here, the Jewish calendar is irrelevant. You're not looking for the right date. You're looking for the hours that this is celebrated. What do you ask? A story that what? A story about a dog? I never heard. What's the story with a dog? That's why there's a minig by many that the night of Nittel, the night of December 25th, the night before December 25th, when they have the mass, midnight. So from sunset till chatzos till midnight, learn Torah. Not to be moisef chayis, spiritual vitality in him, and those who follow the shitta. Especially that he was a Jew and he came from the world of Torah. Well, depends who he was. The Gemara does speak about Yeshu, who was a student of Rabbi Yeshua ben Prachya. Clear. So Sugin Gemara in Sanhedrin and in Saita. Yeshu, it says Yeshu was a student of Yeshua ben Prachya, who was even before the Tana, one of the Zugas. The problem is the Yeshua ben Prachya lived in the middle of Bayesheni, and according to the history of Christianity, he was killed a few decades before the Churban of Bayesheni. So there's a gap of a few hundred years. So does this mean that their Yeshu was distorted? Does it mean that there were two Yeshus, there were two Yashkas? Does it mean that there was only a earlier one, and then somehow the story changed in the process? That's up for debate. But there was certainly a Yeshu who was a student of Yeshua ben Prachya, right? And even according to their history, he came from the world of the Chazal. Came from that world. But according to the Gemara, it's Mamish, a Talmud of Yeshua ben Prachya, one of the very prominent students of the whole Sugya, Masechah Saita, Masechah Sanhedrin. If you want, a few years ago on this day, I did a lecture here called Christianity in the Talmud and the Kabbalah, where I went through the whole history of Christianity from the perspective of Chazal and the Kabbalah and different Midrashim and different Svarim from a Jewish perspective. If you go on it, you put in Christianity, you should find that class if you want. I think it was a 4-hour session, so you need to double speed. But this is good nittel entertainment. Huh? I got a call last night from Chicago, from a yeshiva bach. He wanted to know if he's allowed to watch my video last night, since he doesn't learn. So he wanted to know if on the night of Nittel he's allowed to watch my video about Christianity and the Talmud. I gave him a heter. He said, why? I said, because there's a lot of good jokes. So that was my heter. Okay. Huh? Well, it was based on a bad joke. The lecture was based on a bad joke. Yeah. As I've once shared, that every single Jewish boy grows up in the home of a Jewish mother. And every Jewish mother teaches her Jewish boy that not only he's God's gift to humanity, but he is more or less God himself. It's just most of us are lucky enough at some point to marry a Jewish wife, and within a few months or a few weeks or sometimes a few hours, if you're really lucky, your wife demonstrates to you not only that you're not God, not only you're not God's gift to humanity, but the question is if you have the legitimacy of having an opinion in life at all. Now this fellow, who we call Yashke, also grew up in the home of a Jewish mother, but he never got married. So the perspective of mom has remained and infiltrated much of the world. It's one way of looking at it with some humor. Okay. Let's get to our discussion. Welcome everybody. Baruchim Abayim. So we learned in the Gemara on Daf Vav Amud Aleph, right? The Chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, that if you find chametz on Yom Tif, not on Chol HaMoed, on Yom Tif, meaning the first day of Yom Tif or Shvi Shel Pesach. So what do? Kaifal of Kli, you cover it with a utensil. And at night, as Rashi explains, at night you will destroy it. But by day you don't do anything, you don't even touch it, you just cover it with a keli. That's what the Gemara said. Rashi explained to us that the reason you can do this is because you already did bittul yesterday. Since you already did bittul yesterday, so the fact that there's chametz in your house doesn't cause you to be over by yirah, by yimatzeh, because you already were mavatal the chametz. So min ha-Torah, you're good. You don't have to do anything with the chametz. The only problem is that the Rabbanon said you have to get rid of the chametz, right? So therefore, you don't have to do anything with the chametz min hatayra. So don't touch the chametz. Why should you not touch the chametz? Rashi says because it's muktzah. Leichazil l'tultul, it's muktzah. There's chametz in your house, and you have to get rid of the chametz. But the chiyuv to get rid of the chametz is only rabbinic, because min hatayra, you will mevatel the chametz. So it's not a mitzvah min hatayra, it's only a mitzvah de rabbanon. And the same rabbanon also said it's muktzah. So don't touch it. So why should you cover it with a kli? Because we're far too afraid that you're going to come to eat it. Because we're used to eating chametz. In fact, you can add, Tosfos said in the beginning of the Masechta, that the whole reason for b'dikas chametz and biur chametz midirabanan is because you may come to eat it. So by covering it with a kli, you did the second best option. You didn't get rid of it, but at least you made a nice hecker that you won't come to eat it. That's what Rashi basically explained. And as a result, you may hold on to Isra Muktzah at night. Chalamayid, you have no problem. There's no Muktzah anymore. You can take the piece of chametz and get rid of it. You can burn it, make a fire and burn it, or crumble it and throw it into a river, or flush it down the Beis HaKisei, whatever Beis HaKisei they had, or crumble it and throw it into the ear outside of your home. The fire of Azar Ruach, Mataliyam, you could do Sreif, all after Yom Tov once Chalamayid came. That's what Rashi explained in the Sugya. As we started to discuss, is a second shitta, a much more surprising shitta, and that's the shitta of the Rambam, it's the shitta of the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says, or indicates, that even if you weren't mevatel, you still should not touch the chametz. You should leave the chametz there and put the kli on. Which doesn't only mean if you were mevatel, even if you were mevatel, but you're baking matzah on Pesach, on the first day of Pesach, and by mistake, you let the dough rise, and it became chametz. So the bittul of yesterday is ineffective for the chametz of today. You can't be at mevatel today. Why? Because once Pesach began, Erev Pesach by Chatzos, you can't do bittul anymore, because it's already not yours to be mafker. You can only make something hefker if it's yours, but it's already not yours to be mafker. So bittul is not an option. So you have chametz in your house. So according to Rashi, in this case, there would be a heter to get rid of the chametz, because you're going to be overrun by your rabbi, you might say min hatayra, right? So therefore, there would be a heter. Comes the shittas HaRambam and the shittas HaShulchan Aruch and the shittas HaTur and shittas HaTosfos, and they say no, you still cannot do anything to this chametz, even though you weren't mevatel this chametz. In other words, every moment that it's here, you're overrun by your rabbi. You might say all you do is cover it with a kli. The Gemara is not clear. Yehuda Marav just said if you find chametz on Yom Tov, he doesn't tell us the circumstances. That's why the Rishonim have an argument. This is a classic case where the Gemara is somewhat cryptic because he doesn't tell you what case, with bittul or without bittul. So there's two different interpretations in the Gemara. Halacha l'maisa, we started to learn Sif Hey of Siman Taf Mem Vav in Orach Chayim Hilchos Pesach Shulchan Aruch Harav, and let me summarize it. And then we can go to Siv Vav where he finalizes the halacha, because Siv Hey doesn't discuss yet the halacha, he just analyzes the two opinions, which is the difference between the regular Shulchan Aruch of the Mechaber and the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Shulchan Aruch of the Mechaber, meaning Rabbi Yosef Karo the Beis Yosef, just gives halacha l'maisa, he gives the verdict. Shulchan Aruch Harav, one of its main functions is to give the background of every halacha, the reasoning, how it developed, and to define it and explain the nekuda, the definition, what we call the hagdara of that halacha. So that's why you have it with the full background. And in this particular halacha, he adds a gewaldige chiddush. What was the nekuda that he said? That if you find a piece of chametz on Pesach in your house, so you cover it with a kli. The first opinion he brings is the opinion of Rashi, and the opinion of other Rishonim. I said the Ran, the Smag, Hagos Maimonides, the Tur's brother, Rabbeinu Yechiel, the Tur quotes his brother, that if you were mevatel it, then you could cover it with a kli. What if you were not mevatel it, or it's new chametz that happened today, and therefore you couldn't have been mevatel it? So now suddenly the halacha would change. Why? Because you're going to be overrun by your rabbi Yematzeh. So then Rashi would say you can get rid of the chametz, take it and throw it into the river on Yom Tov, crumble it up and throw it into the river. Crumble it up and throw it into the Beis HaKisei if you could. Try to avoid burning in a fire or or crumbling it and winnowing it into the ear, simply because these are things we usually don't do on Yom Tif. But that's only if you have a river, you have a Beis HaKisei. If you don't, what are you going to do? So now you burn it. You burn it, or you crumble it and you throw it into the ear. We have a problem. The problem is how you're allowed to do this on Yom Tif. You have to rest on Yom Tif. Yom Tif is an essay and a loisus. Not having chametz is also an essay and a loisus. Why should you override Yom Tif? Because you have to get rid of the chametz. What would be the answer? The answer is because since the malacha of fire, burning something, or winnowing, is permitted on Yom Tif for food, for Eichel Nefesh, we have a principle that the Torah really tells us that you're allowed to do these types of malachas, even if it's not for food, as long as there's some need during the day to do it. And here there's a need because every moment that you have the chametz there, you're over on Bayira, Bayimatzeh. So even though the chametz is muktzah, but muktzah is only an isur, the rabbanon. So take the chametz, transgress muktzah, because you're going to be over on Bayira, Bayimatzeh, and therefore get rid of the chametz. And even if you have to burn it, that's fine. Why? Because if you did bittul already, then there's no issue of min hatayra. There's only an issue of the rabbanon. So the rabbanon say, don't touch it, right? Or as the Ran adds even more, he says you can't really burn it because min hatayra, how could you make a fire? It's not l'tzayrich because you already did bittul. And with the raisa of bittul ba'al masagi, so now burning the chametz would be superfluous. So it would be an issa min hatayra, gevaldik avart. But if there was no bittul, so you're going to be over by Rabbi Yamatzah, then they allow you to do this. That's the first shitta, the shitta of Rashi and many other Rishonim. Then comes the second shitta, that's the Chiddush. The second shitta holds that even though there's chametz and you wear it mevatalit, you're not allowed to do anything with it. Why? Because since it's muktzah, so therefore the Chazal said you're not allowed to move it on Yom Tov. Muktzah is only a rabbinic prohibition, and beer chametz is a chiyuv min ha-Torah, tashbisu, and if you have chametz there, you're over by your Rabbi Yamatzeh. This is the chiddush that according to these Rishonim, Rav is teaching us that this is one of the cases where the rabbis held on to their prohibition, even if it uproots a mitzvah min ha-Torah passively. Shevi al tasa. Just like not blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah, shechaliyas b'Shabbos, or other examples where they told you, don't do the mitzvah min ha-Torah. They can't tell you to actively violate Torah. That's not the koyach they have. But the koyach to abstain, to violate passively, not actively, what we call shevi al tasa, that's a koyach that the chachamim have. If they have a good reason, not stam, don't do a mitzvah. They have a good reason for it. And hence, we say that here is one of those cases where muktzah is held on to, and therefore you cannot move this chametz. Tashbisu by Rabbi Yamatzeh. How can that be weaker than muktzah? They will not allow you to move the chametz. Now somebody asked yesterday if you have to get rid of the chametz, so it's not muktzah anymore because you need it. You need to move it. The answer is muktzah is always defined from a moment before Yom Tov and before Shabbos. What's the status of it right before Yom Tov? What was the status of this chametz right before Yom Tov? You didn't even know about it. Of course it was muktzah. Huh? You didn't know about it. You did bdiki, you did beer. You just didn't find it. Or it didn't exist. You just made matzah Pesach morning. You're coming home from shul. Your wife wants to do shwama matzah wraps. Right? The baby was screaming. She ran into the other room. The baby had a whole issue. She came back. Boom. 25 minutes later, she forgot. It's chametz. What do you do now? You come home from shul. There's chametz on the counter. Was dit, man? You did bdika yesterday. You did beer. You didn't have this chametz. Or you didn't find this chametz. Whatever the situation is. When Yom Tov came in, this was muktzah. That doesn't change because now you got to get rid of the chametz. It's still muktzah. So Mela, this shitta holds, even though there was no bittul, you're not allowed to move this chametz. And hence, you leave it in its place and you cover it with a kli. That's the shitta of the Ram, the shitta of Shulchan Aruch. I asked the kasha, bring a fire to the chametz. The best option. You have a fire in your stove, right? take the fire, take a newspaper, take a paper, light it on fire, bring it to the chametz and burn the chametz. Got to kick the chametz out of your house. Kick the chametz out of your house. Make a fire. It's not muktzah. You're not touching the chametz. You're not touching your chametz. This is a big shaila, and yet the Orchos Chaim, the Ramah, Pascha, you're not allowed to do that. Why can't you? Why shouldn't you do that? You have both options. You get the cake, and you have the cake, and you get to eat it too. You get rid of the chametz, and you're not even muktzah. You didn't take the chametz, you brought the fire to the chametz. Gewaldige shaila, right? This is where the Shulchan Aruch Harav is moisef a hesber, a vart. He doesn't say it as a chiddush, he just says it in Shulchan Aruch Hagav Grora, the Kuntres Achron, his masber, how he came to it, the fundamentals of it, in the Kuntres Achron. But what's his chiddush? His chiddush is as follows. What's the svara that you're allowed to burn something on Yom Tov? Mitark shutru l'tzayrich, hutru nami, shaloi l'tzayrich, right? But what does shaloi l'tzayrich mean? Not you don't need it at all. You need it, maybe not for food. You need it for the mitzvah of the day, or you need it for another hana. You need it somehow, like carrying a machzor to shul on Rosh Hashanah, right? It's not food, but it's a tzayrich. It's part of Rosh Hashanah. You want to daven, you need a machzor. You're not going to be able to daven on Rosh Hashanah. Or you're going to eat by a neighbor and you need a key. You don't want to leave your door unlocked. It's a dangerous city. It's a dangerous neighborhood. So you carry a key. It's a tzayir chayoim. You want to eat by somebody. It's part of Simchas Yom Tov. What's the svara you're allowed to burn chametz, we said? Because Pesach, you have to get rid of chametz. And if you're not going to get rid of it, you're going to be over by Rabbi Yamatzeh a whole day. Till Mitzvah Yom Tov. That's called tzayir. Zakter Shulchan Aruch Harav, but in this case it's Shalai L'Tzayrich. Why? Because since Min HaTorah there's no din of Muktzah, so Min HaTorah, what could you do with the chametz? You could throw it into the river, because Torah doesn't have a problem if you move the chametz. So Min HaTorah, lighting the chametz on fire, kindling the chametz, igniting it and burning it, would be Loi L'Tzayrich Klal, superfluous, because you have an option of taking it to the river or throwing it into the Beis HaKisei. It's muktzah. That's a problem with the Rabbanan. That's not a problem of Torah. So mitzvah Torah, burning it would be an Isur min HaTorah of Chilul Yom Tov, right? So the Rabbanan can't say, we want you to go be Mechalel Yom Tov actively through burning something, yeah? Just because we're telling you to do it. We don't have such a koyach to do that. So what are they supposed to do now? To take it to the river, Min HaTorah is good, but with the Rabbanon, it's muktzah. So you're saying, since it's muktzah, Rabbanon say, you can't take it to the river, so you have to burn it, because Hutzer Shaloi L'Tzayrich. That's all a chiddush the Rabbanon, but Min HaTorah, you're not allowed to burn the chametz, because it's Shaloi L'Tzayrich Klal, because Min HaTorah, you're allowed to move it, take it to the river. Throw it into the Beis HaKisei. Why are you burning it? So burning it is Shaloi L'Tzayrich. So Mela Min HaTorah, it's completely asur. On the other hand, you can't do what Torah says because it's muktzah. And the Rabbanan held on to the muktzah even in a place where it's going to cause Bayirah, Bayimatzeh, B'Shev Altas. Now you can't say the Rabbanan will say, okay, since you can't take it to the river, right, so you have to burn it and it won't be muktzah. Because they can't tell you to be Oiker HaTorah B'kum V'aseh. So Mela, what happens? Say, just put a keli over it. So that's why you can't burn it in its place. Now this svara, that the vart is muktzah, the vart is mitzat muktzah, that even b'sheva al tasa, they were oiker the inyan of muktzah. Just 1 second. This svara, because it's an inyan of muktzah, as he says in Ha'arim Mem Gimel, this is from the Shut Ma'arami Lublin Simen Chaf and the Magen Avram and the Pri Chadash. They were the ones who were mechadish that this is the svara. The question is, so why not burn it in its place? The Ramah says you're not allowed to. This is what he's mechadish, because Min HaTorah it's Shaloi L'Tzayrich. Now, once the Chachamim said this, paradoxically, this is what the Kesef Mishnah says, and the Magen Avram says, and that's the last point that he made in Ha'ara Nun Beis. The last point is that you're already not over on Bayirah Bayimatzeh. Why? Because you're only over by Rabbi Yamatzeh if you're not an onus. If you have an ability to be Mavayir Chametz and you're choosing not to, but you want to be Mavayir the Chametz, your hands are tied behind your back because the Chachamim don't let you. So b'meili you're not over by Rabbi Yamatzeh because you're an honor, so you're actually not over. So by telling you not to do anything with it because it's muktzah, right? And they're being oiker. A davim in atayra lepel, they're not being oiker it. Because you're not over by Rabbi Yimatze. Why are you not over by Rabbi Yimatze? Because you're an onus. So you're not transgressing it. Why are you an onus? I want to burn it. I can't. Somebody ties my hands behind my back. I'm not over by Rabbi Yimatze. I want to get rid of it. You're not letting me. They're not letting me do it. This is a bigger oinus than putting a chain on your hands because it's an isur. It's a bigger oinus. It's an isur. I can't do it. So mainly you're not over on Bal Yimatze. That is the second shitta. So even though there's chametz here that was not in his battle, you leave it under the kli. And as I said, that's what the Rambam passes. That's what Shulchan Aruch passes. Even though Rashi doesn't hold that way. Let's see now the halacha. This is sifeh. What's involved? Ulinyan halacha. When it comes to halacha l'maisa, b'makom shenagin kisvara rishonim limchas b'yad. In regions where they follow the first svara, which is, if you weren't mevatel the chametz, get rid of it. And if you got to burn it, fine. In a place where there's no entrenched custom, and you have to choose, it's better to follow the second svara, which is of course much more stringent, not to move this chametz under any circumstance. But there's another solution. You could tell a non-Jew to take the chametz and throw it into the river or a bathroom. Vafilu b'Shabbos. Not only Pesach, Yom Tov, even Shabbos. Yachaloy markein. Tell the Gentile to do it. Rak le'avidenu makom shasil taltul min haTorah. Don't tell him if he has to go to the river and walk through a public domain that's forbidden to carry min haTorah, then don't tell him. But if he's going through what we would call a karmelis, meaning a place that's only forbidden to carry midrabanan on Shabbos, it's fine. And even if it became chametz before you were mevatel the chametz biyudalet, so min haTorah you weren't over on anything because you already did bittul and now you're good. You still have to get rid of chametz, so usually you have to put a keli. But if you want to tell a guy, you could tell a guy to actually do beer and it's good. You're telling him to do something. We just said according to the second shitta, you're not allowed to move it. It's muktzah, right? How can you tell him to do it? And we're saying even Shabbos, you're telling him to carry it, not a b'makom of Rishus Harambam, b'makom Karmelis. So you're telling him to do. You're not allowed to do it. First of all, it's muktzah. You're not allowed to carry it if it's Shabbos. If it's Yom Tov, you don't have a problem of carrying. But if it's Shabbos, you have a problem of carrying according to the second shitta if you say it's shaloi l'tzorich. The answer is shekol davar she'asur la'asosim b'Shabbos b'divrei sofrim muter l'nochi la'asosim yesh b'tzorich mitzvah. There's a principle in Hilchos Shabbos called shvus to shvus b'makom mitzvah, meaning telling a non-Jew to do work for me is not biblical. It's only rabbinic. It's a shvus. Telling him to do something that's rabbinically prohibited is a shvus to shvus. In other words, I'm violating a double rabbinic prohibition. I'm not doing the malacha myself. I'm telling him to do it. That's one rabbinic prohibition. And what am I telling him to do? I'm telling him to do a rabbinic prohibition. In a case of a mitzvah, that's allowed. And this is a case of a mitzvah, because I want to do biur chametz, because I wasn't mevatel my chametz. I don't want to be over by Rabbi Yimatze. So I tell a guy, do it. How can I tell a guy to do it? It's not a problem. I'm telling him to do a shvus. Even Shabbos, I'm telling him to carry it through a karmelis. So I'm telling a guy, which is rabbinically prohibited, to do a rabbinic prohibition for a mitzvah. You're allowed to do that. And that works, even if you did bittul, and certainly if you didn't do bittul, were you mamish mechuyev min haTorah to do it. Yareb Leni. Bamedvarim amurim. Now he doesn't say to tell the guy to burn it or to winnow it. He says throw it into the river of the Beis HaKisei. Why? Because according to the second shitta, burning it would be an isim min haTorah. And winnowing could also be an isim min haTorah, as he puts in the Haggah. That depends how you tie Zoyra. If Zoyra means dafka separating the chaff from the kernel, or any type of winnowing is a Zoyra. That's a question in Hilchos Shabbos and Hilchos Yom Tov. So that he doesn't say. But Yashlichenu l'nar is only a derabanan. Why? On Shabbos it's a problem of carrying in a karmelis. On Yom Tov it's just a problem of muktzah. Right? So it's only a derabanan. So I'm telling him to do a derabanan. and telling him itself is a derabbanan. That's called shvus to shvus. It's a double rabbanan b'makom mitzvah. I'm not telling him stam. I don't want to get rid of this chametz stam. I want to do a mitzvah of tashbisu and not over and by Rabbi Yimotzi. That's fine. That you could do. Which this is a chiddush. This is a chiddush in halacha. The source of this chiddush comes from the shalah. The shalah, and it's brought in Magen Avram and Hilchos Pesach.
Why can't you tell him to eat it?
Why can't I tell the guy to eat it?
Because then he doesn't have to.
And then he owes me a favor. I'm having enough from it. I'm not going to have enough from chametz. I have to destroy the chametz.
He has it, I know. But what do you have?
I'm doing him a favor. I'm doing him a favor. Nice big bottle of mashka. Machaya. $700 bottle. He owe me one.
Do you think he's gonna do beer on bottle of mushroom? He's gonna drink it.
Okay, listen. You saying you can't trust him? Huh? Well, it depends. A Russian, a Pole, a Hungarian, an American. Depends what season of the year. This is all the first day of Yom Tov. What if it's the second day of Pesach? Here, the Shulchan Aruch itself, the Beis Yosef brings the Shulchan Aruch that many say it has a din of Chol HaMoed. So he explains, Yesh lismech al svara harishayna ksheneschamtza b'toich HaPesach v'yesh b'kazayis sha'eva b'yira b'yemotzim min HaTorah. If there was no bittul yesterday, or it became chametz today, and you're over on b'yira b'yemotzim min HaTorah, you could rely on the first svara. Since it's Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galius. Why? What's the svara? Because Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galius is not a biblical prohibition. It's only a rabbinic prohibition. So mainly you could rely. Our svara that you can't burn the chametz in its place was why? Because Minat Torah, you're making a fire on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to. Minat Torah, it's Chol HaMoed. The problem is the Rabbanon said Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galius is a chiddush the Rabbanon. So you still have to keep it. You're not allowed to stam do malachas. You're not allowed to make fires and this. But in this case, we're going to rely on the first svara. Even the first svara which says you're allowed to move it, muktzah, because it's already Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galius, which is a much lesser degree. B'meila, you could rely on the first svara. Umikol makoim, im efshel lo lashlicha lebeis hakisei lenahar, lo yistafena v'lo yizer leruch le'lamayit b'chil Yom Tov. As we said in the first svara on the first day, try to minimize. If you can get it to the river, so it's just muktzah. You don't have to burn it. Right? Or Zayra Laruach. You try to minimize these inyanim of Chil Yom Tov, even though the first svara holds as a heter, because mitach shotzu l'tzayre, chutz nami shaloi l'tzayre. V'chenim efshai dei nachri, lo yasai dei Yisrael, the Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galius.
What's the reason of crumbling it and put it in the river? I know by the wind it has to. If you don't crumble it.
Because if you don't crumble it and you just throw it into the river intact, right? So somebody's on a rowboat. I mean, I know us American, by us food is so abundant, it's not so precious. But if you just throw that bagel into the river and I'm on a rowboat and I haven't eaten in a day and a half, it's a nice lunch.
Didn't you do your job? You did your job of getting.
No, because that's not beer. Tashbisu means destroy it, that it shouldn't be able to be used as chametz. I didn't do my job. That's what beer means. Tashbisu means just like burning it. It's not edible anymore. A crumb, nobody's going to take from a boat. You see a crumb, I mean, it can happen, but it's not a common thing. So that's why you have to be mafar even in the yam. That's what the Gemara is going to explain later. We'll see. If you do this through a guy, lo yevarich, don't make a bracha al bir chametz. Kiven shehu ba'atzmei eine mekayem mitzvah. In other words, if I burn the chametz myself on Yom Tov or Mitzvah Yom Tov, I make a bracha al bir chametz because there's a mitzvah of tashbisu. Fascinating. When I do it through a non-Jew, then I don't make the bracha because I myself am not doing the mitzvah. V'achshav ein noegel v'ayadei nachri. Afilu loyma loy al shlichin ar afilu b'yom tov sheni shel galius lefi shechoyshin l'sakana shel yomer anachri kshafim hu oisali. Today, we will not employ this method of using a non-Jew to destroy chametz, even just to tell him to throw it into a river, even on the second day of Yom Tov. Why? Because we are worried that he's going to think we are using him for black magic. What's the strange thing of taking bread and crumbling it and throwing it into rivers? This is voodoo, this is weird, this is strange. It can create suspicion, it can create hypersensitivity, and therefore the Magen Avram Paskins and the Shulchan Aruch Harav Paskins that today this should not be employed because it's simply a dangerous method. Of course, this is all relative to the circumstances and where you live and what type of Gentile you're using and what he knows and what he doesn't know and so forth. But this is the principle that he articulates in Shulchan Aruch.
So it was similar to some act of kishuf that was done normally over there? That
Apparently, some could compare it. I mean, it is a strange thing, you know. It is a strange thing, right? When I'm on an airplane and I have to put on tefillin, after 9/11, there were situations where people put on tefillin on airplanes, and the flight attendants flipped out because they thought, you know, they're scrapping themselves up in some explosives. They didn't know the whole plane is going to go up in flames, Chalila. So I would call them over and explain to them what I'm doing. They shouldn't think it's some kishuf, you know.
There was a suspicion at one time that the Goyim accused the Jews of putting things down the wells to poison the water.
Yeah, of course. The Black Plague, yeah. Poisoning wells, that's probably the origin of this concern, that you're taking chametz, you're putting it into the water, and you want to contaminate things. Okay. Let's see the next piece. Zok the Gemara weiter. V'amar Rabbi Yehuda amar Rav. Another halacha of Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav. Davav and Aleph, how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Another halacha, Amar Rabbi Yehuda amar Rav. You see 12 lines from the bottom. Psachim Davav Amud Aleph. Fascinating halacha. Hamefarish, if somebody goes into the sea. Somebody takes a journey into the sea on a far traveling distant to a distant location. Hayotzi b'shayara, or somebody goes out on a caravan through the desert. The way they used to travel through deserts was with large caravans in order to protect themselves from predators of all types. In other words, both of these situations mean you're not just traveling to another shtetl, to another city, you're embarking on a long distant journey. Says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, Koidim shloishim yoim, if you left prior to 30 days before Pesach, ein zakuk levayer. You don't need to destroy the chametz in your home. Toich shloishim yoim, if it's within 30 days, zakuk levayer. Before you leave, you need to destroy the chametz before you embark on your journey. Meaning, if I leave my house before Purim, Purim is 30 days before Yud Daled Adar. I leave, let's say, Yud Gimel Adar or Ish Chodesh Adar, Ish Chodesh Shvat. I'm good. I don't have to do Bir Chametz. If I leave Tesvav Adar, I leave within 30 days before Pesach. I leave Rish Chodesh Nisan. Before you leave, you have to do Bir Chametz. That's what Rabbi Yehuda amar Rav said, but it's still a very general halacha without descriptions, without details. What are we talking about? Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? All these questions the Gemara is now going to address. What is the situation? Rashi, hamefarish min hayabasha layam, or b'shayara l'makom rachet. Mefarish means you go into the sea. Shayara means you're going to the desert. You're going far. Koidim shloishim yom lePesach. And the question is, where did we get this number 30? Like, what happens 30? Something happens on 30. So it says, l'kamon mefarish, kineged sheshayel and b'ilchas haPesach koidim haPesach shloishim yom. We're going to soon learn a halacha that we learned from Torah, that you have to start discussing, learning, and asking the halachas of Pesach 30 days before. Umeyaz chololov lihizoyer b'tzarchi haPesach. From here we learn that from 30 days before Pesach, there's now an obligation to start being cautious and conscientious about the needs of Pesach. The Mela, there's a distinction that Rav made between within 30 days and before. You would think, why should there be a distinction? Whenever you go, you go. Whenever you don't. The point is, there's something about Shloshim Yom, as we will see. Rashi is just explaining where we get this whole concept of Shloshim Yom. The question is, what is the meaning of this halacha when we break it down? Of course, there were two Talmidim, Abaya and Rava, who heard this from Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, and they argued a huge argument. Amar Abaya said, very lenient. When you said that within 30 days you have to do Bir Chametz, it's not always that case. It's only if you have in mind to return on Pesach. Then you got to do Bir Chametz. If you're not planning to return for Pesach and you leave Yud Aleph Nisan, Yud Beis Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you don't have to do Bir Chametz. If you're going away, you're traveling. Today would be you get into an airplane, but the point is you're traveling far away. Abaya says no Bir Chametz. Before 30 days, you never have to do Bir Chametz. That's what we see from Abaya. Before 30 days, you never have to do bir chametz, even if you're gonna what? Even if you're gonna return. That's what we see. Even if you're gonna return before Pesach or on Pesach. Which you're saying does this strange halacha, right? Strange halacha. But that's what he says. When do you say that within 30 days you have to be mevayer? Only if you're planning to return. If you're not planning to return, forget, just leave. You're good. This is all within 30 days. Before 30 days, what does he hold? He doesn't make any qualification. In other words, you never have to be mevayer chametz before 30 days. Which seems very strange. I leave my house Tu B'Shvat, or Chodesh Adar, or Erev Purim, right? And I'm going to return. I'm going to a chasana overseas. I'm taking a boat. I'm going to come back. Abaya says you're good. You don't have to be mevayer. You're mevayer chametz. Huh? Good question. Good question. Does he do bittul? What does he do when he comes back? It's a house filled with chametz. Abaya's chiddush. And even if he's not coming back, you're saying it's full of chametz. His house is full of chametz. He may be in England and the house is in New York, but he has chametz. It's gvulcha. Maybe not his residence now, but it's gvulcha. Great questions, right? Amalei Rava. So Rava tells his colleague Abaya, excuse me, if a person has in mind to come back, even if he leaves Rosh Hashanah, forget the month before. Even if he leaves Rosh Hashanah, he has to get rid of the chametz. Why? You're coming back to a house full of chametz. That's Rava's question. Rava doesn't ask you a question. Even if you're not coming back, you have a house filled with chametz. But Rava asks the first question, the natural question, the more obvious, powerful question. What's that have to do? 30 days, not 30 days. If you're coming back to a house full of chametz, even Rosh Hashanah. And he doesn't mean Rosh Hashanah. He means the point is even 6 months before. Even 6 months before, you're not allowed to. Beis Yosef actually says Rosh Hashanah means the beginning of the year after last Pesach. Rosh Hashanah doesn't mean our Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah means the beginning of the year after, even if you leave a day after Pesach. A day after Pesach. Or a week after Pesach. And you're coming back a year later for Pesach. You have to get rid of the chametz. Ela my Rava says, no, you misunderstood Rav. When do you say before 30 days? You don't have to be mevayer le'amar and elashein daite lachzer. If you're not coming back, avol daite lachzer. If you're coming back, afilu min Rosh Hashanah zakuk levayer. Even if you leave Rosh Hashanah time. Well, you're not going to travel on Rosh Hashanah, but even if you leave Rosh Hashanah time, you have to be mevayer chametz before you go on your journey. In other words, Rava changes it. Within 30 days, you leave. You always have to be mevayer chametz, even if you're not planning to come back. Before 30 days, when it says you don't have to be mevayer, it's with a condition that you never had in mind to come back. But if you have in mind to come back, on Pesach, before 30 days, you still have to be mevayer chametz, even if you leave a year before Pesach or many months before Pesach Rosh Hashanah. Let's see Rashi. Okay, so now before we read Rashi. Let's try to understand this. What did Abaya mean? What did Abaya mean? What did even Rava mean? Let's say you're not coming back. I leave Rosh Hashanah, I leave Tzom Gedalia, and Erev Rosh Hashanah, I'm not coming back, right? So Rava says, fine, you have a house full of chametz, geig, hate, you don't do anything. Yeah, it's a good question. You're not allowed to have in your gvul. I'm allowed to have chametz somewhere else. Like a big shaila. How could Rav just let that happen? Huh? Well, the door's locked. The door's locked. What's pshat? What? So you're saying only b'dika, not bitterly. And then there's the bigger question. Okay. At least Rava said if you're coming back, you have to do beer. Abaya is the big chiddush. Abaya holds if you leave Tzom Gedalia, you leave Tu B'Shvat, you leave Erev Purim, you could come back. I don't care. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't care? Maybe if I don't come back, fine. You'll have some mechanism. I'm coming back to a house filled with chametz. What's the Havana? What's the Havana of this? So you're saying, and this is the Mahalach of some. The Tosfos Harash says this, L'mashal, that it's talking about a case where, of course, you're doing bittul. You're doing bittul. That's not a question. No one had an issue with that. You're doing bittul. Everyone holds it comes the time, the right time you're going to do bittul. So midaraisa, you're set. Elamai, we have a problem. The Chachamim still said, get rid of the chametz. Why? Or whatever the reason is. Yeah? So here there's a clear that Abaye tained that if you're leaving before 30 days, Abaye says what? Don't worry about it. Are you going to come back to a house of chametz? Since you left before 30 days, I don't have to think about Pesach. And therefore, of course, I have to do bittul, but I don't have to think about Pesach. And therefore, you're coming back to a house filled with chametz. You'll do what you have to do then. But till then, you don't have to worry about it. Where Rava said, if you stay away, gesundheit, you're leaving your house filled with chametz, but since you're far away, you're not going to come to eat it. Unless you have in mind to come back. Then Rava says, what? Then taka shama yavay lacha, you have to do b'dikah and beer before. You come back on Yom Tif. Well, you're not going to come back on the first day of Yom Tif. If you come back Chol HaMoed l'mashal, then you could burn it. You get rid of it. If you come back Yom Tif, then if you did bittul, you just cover it with a kli, yeah? According to this, yeah. Same Rav, yeah. That's one mahalach. When you look in Rashi, though, that's why I wanted to say it before Rashi. And what would be the svaras hamachloikas? You would say Abaye holds before 30 days you don't have to think about Pesach. Rava says no, you always have to think. Therefore, even before 30 days, if you're coming back, now you have to think about it. You're going to be coming back to a house filled with chametz. You do bittul laher, bittul lahin. But this already, samachtas, it makes it easier to digest. No pun intended, because there was bittul. You look in Rashi, let's take a look in Rashi. The picture changes a little bit. Zogt Rashi. If you have in mind to come back with Mei Pesach, then Abaye said, B'toich shloshim yom, you have to be Mavaya, right? L'fnei shloshim yom, you never have to be Mavaya. In other words, Abaye holds even within shloshim yom, if you're not coming back, I don't care. If you're coming back, then you got to take care of it B'toich shloshim yom. Before shloshim yom, b'chlal, you don't have to think. Rava says no, B'toich shloshim yom always, and before shloshim yom it depends. Look Rashi. Afilu Rosh Hashanah nami. Now listen to this Rashi. Rava says even Rosh Hashanah, if you're coming back, you have to be Mavayir chametz. Why? The chiho der baby meya Pesach. Listen to the words of Rashi. If you leave Rosh Hashanah and you come back on Pesach, what's going to be? Over LA. You're going to be over. You're going to be over on having chametz in your house. Vahi shaita lav birushusi hidelevatle. And that moment, you can't be mevatel it anymore. Why? It's Pesach. Shari isur hano ve'iner shaloi. On Pesach, you're not allowed to benefit from chametz. It's not considered yours. This is the yesod you have to remember. There's no bittul once this man came that you can't eat it and have enough from it. So when you come back, Rashi says bittul is not an option. Too late, because you came back on Pesach. You came back before Pesach is fine, but it's on Pesach. And when you see it, over aleha, you're going to be over on the chametz. Rashi Tainus. What does Rashi mean here? What does Rashi mean here? When you're away, you're not over. When you're away, you're not over. Rashi says you're going to come back. You get stuck now. Why do you get stuck? Bittul you can't do. Yeah? Bittul you can't do. So it sounds like you didn't do bittul before. You can't do bittul now. There's only one option. The option is to do beer. Zok Rashi, the problem is you're going to come back and you're going to be over on it, and you can't do bittul now. Why can't you do bittul? Because it's the middle of Pesach. But Melech Shira'o, when you see it, over you're going to be over on the chametz, on the Bayir Abaye Matzah. So therefore, Rava completely rejects Abaye's svar, and he says if you're coming back, you have to do beer chametz before you leave. If you're not coming back, Rava also holds you don't have to. And Abaye holds, even if you're coming back, you don't have to. Huh? Right, only within 30 days.
So it's not 30 days, 35 days. What Rabba is not...
Okay, so apparently 30 days is some interesting time. Yeah. What does Rashi say?
The 30 days.
Yeah, that 30 days is something.
What's the difference in finding a piece of chametz on Pesach? So before 30 days, he definitely will forget if he would not do it. So within 30 days, he would not forget because he has to review halachos.
So we could explain this in two ways. One way is the Chassam Sofer's way, and one way is the Marsha's way. Chassam Sofer says, very interesting, Vart. If you remember, on Daf Beis Amud Aleph, Rashi said you have to be boidik chametz not to be overrun by your rabbi Yematzeh. For Tosfos, you have to do bittul anyway. You're not going to be overrun by your rabbi Yematzeh. So the Bartanura answered that Rashi holds that you'll do bittul, and it's very, very nice. But then you're going to see a beautiful piece of chametz in your house, and yimolech mi bitulai. As he says, machshava mevatelas machshava. You're going to regret your bittul. What is bittul, according to Rashi? And this is the chiddush of how you learn bittul according to Rashi. Rashi holds, unlike Tosfos, the bittul is not hefker. Bittul is a mental disengagement. I think it's offer. In the middle of Pesach, I say, this is nice. I like this. Geschmack. And suddenly I undid my bittul. So he says, that's why Rashi says you got to do b'dika and bir shalaver by your rabbi Yematzeh. That's what the Bartanura teaches there. Says Chassam Sofer, that's pshat here. Rashi also means he did bittul. He did bittul. It could be he did bittul. But Kishira'o, when he sees the chametz, he's chayzim a bitulai. And b'meili he's going to be over. That's how he learns Rashi. That's why he holds you have to do b'dika and bir for that reason. You should still do bittul, but you have to do b'dika and bir. So in Mela, when you come back on Pesach, you're going to be over. You could be over. You could be over. Oh, when you see it, you may undo the bittul. He might be, yeah. He could be over. That's how he learns Rashi. That's what the Chassam Sofer says. You'll have a problem. But hopefully you won't. So in other words, there's a concept of bittul. The problem is, Rava says, you come back to a house filled with chametz. It's not a good idea. Abaye says, I'm not worried. We can understand. Rava says, I am worried. If you're not coming back, I don't have a problem. You'll do bittul. You're good. You're not going to regret it from England. But if you're coming back to a house filled with chametz, I'm worried. That's the issue. I'm worried. That you'll be chayzim bitullah. You'll be chayzim bitullah. And the moment that happens, you can't do a bittul again. You do, I'll do bittul now. It's over already. It's on Pesach. You can't do bittul anymore. That's how you have to touch. You could be oiked, but you can't do it again because it's already not yours to be mevatel. You're done. So once you lost your bittul, you're over by Rabbi Yematzeh. The Marsha, based on the Chidush Haran and others, says a whole different vart. Fascinating idea. And that is, we have a halacha later in the Mishnah, chametz shenafal of mapoilus hareyu kemavur. Let's say a person, unfortunately, ceiling falls down in the kitchen or in the basement. Yeah, ceiling falls down, and it buries all the chametz in a pile of rubble. Do I have to do bir chametz? Do I have to go undig the rubble and get rid of the chametz? I'm not selling anything to a guy. It's all my chametz. The halacha is no. Hareyu kemavur. It's in your house, but since it's inaccessible, so it's kemavur. It's like you destroyed it. You don't have to do anything. It's like you did beer. You're good. You do bittul midrabanan. We always do bittul. But even if you don't do bittul, there's an inyan of beer. Minayr Torah, you're good. What's the svara? It says, lo yimatzei, sa'ar lo yimatzei bevateichem. Matzei doesn't only mean found, it also means matzui, accessible. It has to be accessible to me. Even in a closet, a safe, but it's accessible. This is not accessible. Yes, can I take shovels in the middle of Pesach and dig it up? Of course. I could bring tractors and so on and so forth. Of course I could. But it's a complicated issue. That's not called matzui. Something that's under rubble is not called accessible. Lo yimatzei. Tain is the Marsha, that's Pshat in Rashi. If you're away from your home in England, You're not over min Torah. There's no Bayir Rabbi Matzeh. Why? It's not accessible. How are you going to get it? Today, noch, you can get into a Concorde. You get it a flight, you're here. You have to. It's not Matzui. It's not Matzui. You're not over. There was no bittul. You're not over. You're good. Gavaldik Kavart. So the problem is not if you're away. If you're away, you're good. There's no b'chol gvulcha. Gvulcha means if it's Matzui. If it's not Matzui, it's not an issue. And you went through your ocean. You're on the other side of the ocean. So Mela, Abaya, and Rava hold, if you're not coming back, I don't care. Gesundheit. Yeah, but the Rabbanan, you should do bittul. We're talking about Torah, you're good. Should you do bittul? Of course you should do bittul. What do you lose from doing bittul? But min Torah, you're not going to be over because it's like a mapoilus. But Rava Taina, if you're coming back is my problem. When you're coming back, you're going to walk into the house and suddenly it's accessible. You're over by Rabbi Matzeh. That's what Rashi says. It doesn't mean when you see it. When you come in and you could see it, you come into your neighborhood, Shen Matzu, you buy your house, you ever buy your Rabbi Matzeh. Abaye, what are you thinking? If you stay in London, Gesundheit, but you're not staying in London, you're coming back in the middle of Pesach. You'll do bittul. You can't do bittul anymore. You can't do bittul now. I'm in front of my house, I'll do bittul. You can't do bittul. What do you have to do? You have to do only biur, right? So you could. So Abaye says, okay, you'll do biur. Abaye says, when you come home, you'll worry about it. Do biur. You don't have to worry about it before. Rava says, yeah, what if you wait 3 minutes? You're over by Rabbi Matzeh. But